morning all. Today I am going to teach you guys the chapter 2 class 8 microorganisms friend and foe. You have seen several kinds of plants and animals. However, there are other living organisms around us which we normally cannot see. These are called as microorganisms or microbes. For example, you might have observed that during the rainy season moist bread gets spoiled and its surface gets covered with grayish white patches. Observe these patches through a magnifying glass. You will see tiny black rounded structures. Do you know what these structures are and where do these come from? So the title of the chapter is Microorganisms Friend and Foe. From the title itself, we can see that we are going to study about microorganisms. What are microorganisms? Microorganisms are living organisms around us which we cannot see through our normal eyes, through our open eyes, naked eyes. That's why they are called as microorganisms. They are also called as microbes. Micro means very tiny and small. Organisms refer to living creatures. So, we can say over here microorganisms. We are going to study about microorganisms. Okay. In science, for every branch, there are different branches. The study of microbes is called as microbiology. And study of microbiology, father of microbiology is father of microbiology is none other than Anton von Leeuwenhoek. Leeuwenhoek or Leeuwenhoek. Anton von Leeuwenhoek is the father of microbiology. For example, you might have observed that during the rainy season, moist bread gets spoiled and its surface gets covered with grayish white patches. Observe these patches through a magnifying glass. You will see tiny black rounded structures. Do you know what these structures are? And where do these come from? Okay, we will find out what are these structures on the moist bread when we study in detail about what are microorganisms. 2.1 Microorganisms. Collect some moist soil from the field in a beaker and add water to it. After the soil particles have settled down, observe a drop of water from the beaker under a microscope. What do you see? Activity 2.2. Take a few drops of water from a pond, spread on a glass slide, and observe through a microscope. Do you find any tiny organisms moving around? So here there are two activities mentioned to be done by the students. In the first one, we are supposed to collect some moist soil and in a beaker and add water to it. After the water settles down at the bottom of the beaker, what can be seen? When the drops of water are taken and seen under a microscope. Activity 2.2 is take a few drops of water of from pond. We are supposed to take water from pond source, and after that we are supposed to take a glass slide and see that droplets of water under the microscope. So when we do so, we can observe what are the observations. Observations. These observations show that water and soil are full of tiny organisms, though not all of them fall into the category of microbes. Because in case of pond water, not only microorganisms, but there are some insects which live in such pond source. Therefore, everything under in pond water cannot be microscopic. These microorganisms or microbes are so small in size that they cannot be seen with the unaided eye. That is through our normal open naked eyes. Some of these, such as the fungus that grows on bread, can be seen with a magnifying glass. Others cannot be seen without the help of a microscope. This is why these are called as microorganisms or microbes. See, we call microorganisms as microorganisms because we cannot see through our naked eyes. That is first thing. Second is, without using microscope, we cannot see the structures of such microorganisms. Microorganisms are classified into 4 major groups. These groups are bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and some algae. Some of these common microorganisms are shown in figures 2.1 to 2.4. So, when it comes to classification of microorganisms, there are 4: bacteria, algae, fungi, and protozoans or protozoa. However, now these 4 are the major groups of microorganisms. Viruses are also microscopic but are different from other microorganisms. They, however, reproduce only inside the cells of the host organisms, which may be a bacterium, plant, or animal. Some of the viruses are shown in figure 2.5. Common ailments like cold, influenza, that is flu, and most coughs are caused by viruses. Serious diseases like polio and chicken pox are also caused by viruses. Diseases like dysentery and malaria are caused by protozoans, whereas typhoid, TB are bacterial diseases. So, in case of virus, we cannot say that viruses are microscopic. I will tell why. Because in one stage of life, they are living, and in other stage of life, they are not living. In one set of life, one stage and second stage. Why we cannot say that it is completely microscopic and completely non living or non-living, because viruses are in the first phase of their lives, they are inactive. We all know, I think you guys must have studied host and parasite mechanism or interrelationship or interrelation. For example, host is what? Is the plant or animal which is affected. Parasite is the organism which is affecting. Viruses cause diseases, but not all. Over here in next page they have given in figure 2.1 bacteria, and figure 2.2 they are given some pictures of algae. The first one is chlamydomonas and the second one is spirogyra. Spirogyra we can see in pond water. Amoeba also can be seen under pond water. Most of these chlamydomonas, spirogyra, protozoa, paramecium, these can be seen in water bodies. Mostly under lakes and ponds, freshwater bodies. And over here in figure 2.4 they have given fungi. Fungi, the examples are bread mold, penicillium, aspergillus niger, which is one of the most popular fungus. Penicillium is very famous for the extraction of penicillin, one of the antibiotics. One of the very famous antibiotic, and we will be seeing about penicillin antibiotics in detail when we study about them in detail in further. Moving on, topic 2.2. Over here in figure 2.5 they have given the microscopic view of viruses. These are microscopic structures of viruses, figures of viruses. 2.2. Where do microorganisms live? Microorganisms may be single-celled like bacteria. Some algae and protozoa are multicellular, such as mini algae or fungi. They live in all types of environment, ranging from ice-cold climate to hot springs and deserts to marshy lands. They are also found inside the human bodies and also in the bodies of animals. They are also found as either they are free living or live in relationships like symbiotic relationship, which is sharing or parasite host mechanism. Moving on to the next topic, microorganisms and us. Microorganisms play an important role in our lives. Some of them are beneficial to us in many ways, whereas some of them are harmful to us and cause diseases. Let us study about them in detail. First, we are going to study about friendly microorganisms. The title of our chapter, Microorganisms Friend and Foe, itself detailedly tells you that gives you the idea that we are going to study about what are microorganisms. They are friend to us, but how? And they are foe, that is, they are enemy or causing harm to us. And but how? These are the major objectives of learning this chapter. So first we are moving, how are they friend to us? Friendly microorganisms. Microorganisms are used for various purposes. They are used in the preparation of curd, bread and cake. First uses, they are used in the preparation of curd, bread and cake. Microorganisms have been used for production of alcohol since ages. They are also used in cleaning of the environment. For example, the organic waste, vegetable peels, remains of animals, feces are broken down into harmless harmless substances by bacteria. Uh, Recall that bacteria are also used in the preparation of medicines. Yes. In agriculture, they are used to increase soil fertility by fixing nitrogen. Actually, in case of agriculture, soil fertility, if a soil is more fertile, that means there is more nitrogen content in it. So, naturally, we cannot, plants cannot take atmospheric nitrogen into them. So there are particular bacteria which convert the atmospheric nitrogen to simple forms such that plants can use that form for their nutrition purpose. And a friendly microorganism, first we have studied, they have used in, microorganisms are used in preparation of curd, bread and cake. Now we are going to study in detail about how they are used in preparation or making of curd and bread. You have learned in class 7 that milk is turned into curd by bacteria. It is actually called, the bacterium name is lactobacillus, which, this is the bacterium's name, which helps to convert the milk into curd. I saw that my mother added a little sugar to warm milk to set curd for the next day. I wonder why. Though, so it is for conversion of curd, that warm milk to completely transform to curd. Curd contains several microorganisms. One of these, the bacterium lactobacillus promotes the formation of curd. It multiplies in milk and converts it into curd. Bacteria are also involved in the making of cheese, pickles, and many other food items. An important ingredient of rava, suji, idlis, and bhaturas is curd. Can you guess why? Bacteria and yeast are helpful in the fermentation of rice, idlis, and dosa batter. So, for the preparation of dosa batter, the consistency that dosa batter's consistency, thick consistency, and idlis, batter of idlis, for these, bacteria and yeast help a lot, so that we can taste very tasty idlis and dosas. Moving on. Activity 2.3. Take half kg flour, atta or maida and add some sugar and mix with warm water. Add a small amount of yeast powder and knead to make a soft dough. What do you observe after 2 hours? Did you find the dough rising? Maida with yeast powder and raised maida. When we add yeast to maida or atta with that sugar, actually yeast produces carbon dioxide, CO2. This can be when carbon dioxide is released, this can be seen in the form of bubbles. So yeast reproduces rapidly and produces carbon dioxide during respiration. Bubbles of the gas fill the dough and increase its volume. This is the basis of use of yeast in baking industry for making breads, pastries and cakes. So, yeast plays a very important role in baking industry. Otherwise, we cannot eat tasty breads, cakes, and other bakery items. Commercial use of microorganisms. Microorganisms are used for the large scale production of alcohol, wine, acetic acid, whose common name is vinegar. Yeast is used for commercial production of alcohol and wine. For this purpose, yeast is grown on natural sugars present in grains like barley, wheat, rice, crushed fruit juices, etc. So, I already mentioned that yeast has a most important role in bakery industry because it is added to each and every bakery items, for example, cakes or bread or bun for that puffiness which we see in that bakery items, baked items. So, next, activity 2.4. Take a Take a 500 ml beaker filled up to 3/4 with water. Dissolve 2 to 3 teaspoons of sugar in it. Add half a spoon of yeast powder to the sugar solution. Keep it covered in a warm place for 4 to 5 hours. Now smell the solution. Can you get a smell? This is the smell of alcohol as sugar has been converted into alcohol by yeast. This process of conversion of sugar into alcohol is known as fermentation. So, what is fermentation? When first we are taking water, to it we are adding sugar, and to that we are adding half a spoon of yeast powder. So the combination of these three kept in a warm or high temperature to 4 to 5 hours leads to formation of alcohol. Next, moving on, after fermentation, uh, he is the person Louis Pasteur discovered fermentation process in the year 1857. He's a scientist who discovered fermentation process. Next, medicinal use of microorganisms. First, we saw what are the general use of microorganisms in our daily life. Second, we saw what are the commercial use of microorganisms in detail. And third, we are going to see about the medicinal use of microorganisms. Whenever you fall ill, the doctor may give you some antibiotics, capsules, or injections such as penicillin. The source of these medicines is microorganisms. These medicines kill or stop the growth of disease causing microorganisms. Such medicines are called antibiotics. These days, a number of antibiotics are being uh, produced from bacteria and fungi, like, for example, streptomycin, tetracycline, erythromycin, which we normally take when we are having a bad throat, no voices, or voice has been changed due to cold. These are some of the examples of antibiotics we use in our daily life in case of emergency purposes. In 1929, Alexander Fleming was working on a culture of disease causing bacteria. Suddenly, he found the spores of a little green mold in one of his culture plates. He observed the presence of mold prevented the growth of bacteria. In fact, it also killed many of these bacteria. From this mold, penicillin was prepared. So, this is how penicillin, which is extracted from penicillium, which is a bread mold, which is a mold. It was actually discovered by Alexander Fleming accidentally. The commonly known antibiotics are made from fungi and bacteria. The antibiotics are manufactured by growing specific microorganisms and are used to cure a variety of diseases. Antibiotics are even mixed with the feed of livestock and poultry to check the microbial infection in animals. In case of animals, if we humans are suffering or having any sort of health issue, we can feel that, but in and express that too. But in case of animals, they cannot. They just either in case of cows or horses, which are mostly domestic, they just behave differently. By that we can say that they are suffering from some sort of problem. So in case of curing the animal diseases also, antibiotics are used. They are also used to control many plant disease also. It is important to remember that antibiotics should be taken only on the advice of a qualified doctor. Please note that. What are the precautions to be taken if you are going to take antibiotic? First, we should consult it with a qualified doctor. And second, if it is not prescribed by the doctor, please don't take it. So that's why when the antibiotics are taken or when not needed actually, even if normal medicines work, or even if taken in wrong doses, they actually make the drug less effective, and it can also affect our health in future. Also, antibiotics taken unnecessarily may kill the normal beneficial bacteria which is within our human body. So antibiotics are not effective against. Okay, this is an important point to be noted. Antibiotics are effective only on bacterial and other type of diseases. They are not effective on viral diseases or disorders. It's an important point to be noted. So, in such case, if antibiotics are not used to control viral diseases, then what is the option to control viral diseases? That is the thing which we are going to see next. Vaccine. Why are children and or infants given vaccination? When a disease carrying microbe enters our body, the body produces antibodies to fight the invader. The body also remember how to fight the microbes if it enters again. If dead and weakened microbes are introduced into a healthy body, the body fights and kills the invading bacteria by producing suitable antibodies. The antibodies remain in the body and we are protected from the disease causing microbes. This is how the vaccine works. So first we are injected a weak form of disease. So our body produces antibodies against that. In future, when we are actually being affected by the same disease, the actual vaccine, the actual again the antibodies will get produced, and it prevents us from the disease. This is the mechanism of vaccines. Edward Jenner discovered the vaccine for smallpox in 1798. In your childhood, you must have been given injections to protect yourself against several diseases. Can you prepare a list of these diseases? You may take help from your parents. It is essential to protect all children against these diseases. Necessary vaccines are available in the nearby hospitals. Moving on, actually, I have mentioned about the vaccine action. Moving on, we have learned that we have got ourselves vaccinated against COVID when it was very severe. For example, Covaxin and Covishield. These are the two major vaccines which we mainly used when we were suffering in the corona stage in 2020s and 21s. And a worldwide campaign against smallpox has finally led to its eradication from most parts of the world. These days, vaccines are made on a large scale from microorganisms to protect humans and other animals from several diseases, increasing soil fertility. This is the next part. Is increasing soil fertility is the another advantage of or merits of microorganisms. Some bacteria are able to fix nitrogen from the atmosphere to enrich soil with nitrogen and increase its fertility. These microbes are called as biological nitrogen fixers. Biological nitrogen fixers. For example, we have already studied rhizobium. It it stays under the leguminous roots of the leguminous plants and help the plant to get the nutrition by taking up by supplying nitrogen to the plant. In return, the rhizobium gets nutrients from the plant's body to satisfy its own needs. Cleaning the environment. Buju and Paheli had observed the school gardener making manure. Along with their friends, they collected waste of plants, vegetables, and fruits from nearby houses and gardens. They put them in a pit meant for waste disposal. After some time, it decomposed and converted to manure. Bujo and Paheli wanted to know how this has happened. So they wanted to know how this had happened. Activity 2.5. We will be explaining Bujo and Paheli how this has happened actually. Before that, for knowing more about that, we are going to study what is activity 2.5. Take two pots and fill each pot half with soil. Mark them A and B. Put plant waste in pot A and things like polythene bags, empty glass bottles, and broken plastic toys in pot B. Put the pot aside Put the pots aside. Observe them after 3 weeks. Do you find any difference between the content of two pots? If so, what is the difference? You will find that plant waste in pot A has been decomposed. And how did this happen? The plant waste has been converted into manure by the action of microorganisms. The nutrients released in the process can be used by the plants again. Did you notice that in pot B, the polythene bags, empty glasses, bottles, and broken toys parts did not undergo any such changes? The microbes could not act on them and convert them into manure. You often see large amounts of dead organic matter in form of in the form of decaying plants and sometimes dead animals on the ground. You find that they disappear after some times. This is because the microorganisms decompose dead organic waste of plants and animals, converting them into simple substances. These substances are again used by other plants and animals. Thus, microorganisms can be used to degrade the harmful and smelly substances and thereby clean up the environment. So, here we can say that in the role of cleaning the environment, that is, sometimes when some plants or any animal die, for some time it can be seen, but after some time it just vanishes. If we wonder why, it is due to the presence of microorganisms which cleans up the dead and decaying matter of plants and animals, ensuring the clean of environment. Moving on, topic 2.4, harmful microorganisms. Microorganisms are harmful in many ways. Some of the microorganisms can cause diseases in human beings, plants, and animals. Such disease causing microorganisms are called as pathogens. Till now, we have studied about merits or advantages of microorganisms. Now we are going to see about how they are harmful to us. That is, how they are enemies to us. First is uh, the harmful microorganisms. That is, disease causing microorganisms are called as pathogens. And others so these which the microorganisms which tend to cause diseases in humans and other living creatures, so they spoil food, cloths, cloth material like cotton, and even leather. Disease causing microorganisms in humans. Pathogens enter our body through the air we breathe, the water we drink, and also the food we eat. They can also get transmitted by direct contact with an infected person or carried by an animal. Microbial diseases that can be spread from an infected person to a healthy person through air, water, food, or physical contact are called as communicable diseases. What are communicable diseases? The microbial diseases that can spread from an infected person to a healthy person by means of air, water, food, or even physical contact are called communicable diseases. These are also called as transmittable diseases. So, what is the opposite one? The normal viral diseases, which are not spread due to physical contact, are called non communicable diseases. So, examples of such communicable diseases would be cholera, common cold, chickenpox, tuberculosis, etc. When a person is suffering from common cold, sneezes, fine droplets of moisture carrying thousands of viruses are spread in the air. The virus may enter the body of a healthy person while breathing and cause infection. You see, Bujo is asking Paheli. Then how do you prevent the spread of communicable diseases? That is, which is the diseases which are spread by means of contact, air, water, food. We should keep a handkerchief on the nose and mouth while sneezing. It is distance. It is better to keep it or maintain a distance from infected persons. That's a good prevention, uh, Paheli. There are some insects and animals which act as carriers of disease causing microorganisms or microbes. Housefly is one such carrier. The flies sit on the garbage and animal excreta. Pathogens stick to their bodies. When these flies sit on uncovered food, they may transfer the pathogens. Pathogens are nothing but disease causing microorganisms. Whoever eats that contaminated or polluted food is likely to get sick. So it is advisable to always keep the food covered. Avoid consuming uncovered items of food. Another example of carrier. Actually, carriers are nothing but They do not cause carriers can be insects, animals also, but uh, they are not the direct reason or direct cause of any uh, diseases. Rather, they are transmitting. They act as transmitting characters. So for that, housefly is a general, normal, usual example. Housefly we can see everywhere, mainly when nearby garbage, garbage or dustbins. We can see that there are a lot of houseflies and mosquitoes, which are the major carriers of any disease. Over here, they have mentioned that female Anopheles mosquito. It is the parasite. It carries the parasite of malaria. Parasite of malaria is nothing but plasmodium. Another example is the female Aedes mosquito, which is the carrier of dengue virus. So, how can we control the spread of malaria or dengue? And here, over here, in figure 2.8, it is the figure of female Anopheles mosquito. Why does the teacher keep telling us not to let water collect anywhere in the neighborhood? Because all the mosquitoes breed in water. They actually lay eggs in water, which leads to the multiplication of the population of mosquitoes and leading to cause of various diseases. And this happens mostly water gets collected in the rainy seasons. So, hence, one should not let water collect anywhere in coolers, tires, flower pot, etc. Anywhere it should not get collected and remain the same. It should be cleaned. So, what can we do to prevent the spread of these diseases? We can keep the surroundings clean and dry such that there is no possibilities that mosquitoes lay eggs in any sort of water collected over the ground, and hence we can prevent mosquito breeding. Try to make a list of measures which help to avoid the spread of malaria. Please think over this and make a list. Moving on. Table 2.1. Some common human diseases caused by microorganisms. It is one of the most important table in this chapter. First, in the first column, they have mentioned what the different types of human diseases. Now, in the second column, they have mentioned what is the causative microorganism of that particular disease, and in the third column, they have mentioned what are the modes of transmissions of that particular disease, and what are the general preventive measures should be taken. For in case of tuberculosis, bacteria is the causative microorganism, and it can be transmitted by air. Measles virus, it is caused by a virus, and measles, chickenpox and polio are caused by viruses, and measles is spread through air, whereas chickenpox or polio is either spread through air or contact or by water. The preventive measures for all these four is the same. It is that the patient who is being affected by any of these four disease should be kept in an isolated area, and the personal belongings or any material of that particular patient should be kept away from others ones. So to avoid all these diseases to be affected, if they are getting vaccinated at the suitable age of vaccination, it is surely it will be very preventive. And in case of cholera and typhoid, it is caused by bacteria, and the modes of transmission are either food or water. And this can be prevented if the people or the patients maintain personal hygiene and may have good and healthy food and properly cooked food and maintain personal hygiene. And in case of water, if they drink boiled or hot water, they can surely get prevented by cholera and typhoid related diseases, and vaccination is must. Next is hepatitis A virus is the causative microorganism, and it is transmitted through water. This can be prevented by drinking boiled water. And the in case of all these diseases till now, vaccination is one preventive measure, and second is the patient should be maintaining a personal hygiene, and mostly water should be drink little bit of warm water. These are the general instructions. In case of malaria, the causative microorganisms is protozoa, which is nothing but a carrier. Here it is mosquito, female Anopheles mosquito. Use mosquito net and repellents. Spray insecticides and control breeding of mosquitoes by not allowing water to collect in the surroundings. Some of the common diseases affecting humans, their modes we have just read now in table 2.1. Next is disease causing microorganisms in animals. Several microorganisms not only cause diseases in humans and plants but also in other animals. Till now we have studied animals and human beings are getting sorry till now we have studied that humans, how we are getting affected by bacterial or any sort of diseases, and also plant diseases, but we have not studied yet about animal diseases which are caused by microorganisms. For example, anthrax. Anthrax is a dangerous human cattle disease caused by a bacterium. Foot and mouth disease of cattle is caused by a virus. These are first one is anthrax. Anthrax is a human cattle disease caused by bacteria. And the second one is foot and mouth disease, which is caused by a virus in cattle again. So moving on, these are some of the list of both these diseases are some of the common diseases caused by microorganisms in animals. Next, we are going to see what are the disease causing microorganisms in plants. Several microorganisms cause diseases in plants like wheat, rice, potato, sugarcane, orange, apple, and others. The diseases reduce the yield of crops. See table 2.2 for some such plant diseases. They can be controlled by use of certain chemicals which kill the microbes. Here in table 2.2 they have given some plant diseases caused by microorganisms. The name of the plant disease first is citrus canker. This is caused by bacteria and the mode of transmission is air. And second is rust of wheat. It is caused by fungus or fungi, and this is transmitted through air or seeds of wheat. And the third is yellow vein mosaic of bhindi, or bhindi is nothing but lady's finger, or it can be called as okra in Hindi. And it is the microorganism which it is caused is a virus, and the mode of transmission of this plant disease is by insect. Next is food poisoning. Buju was invited by his friend to a party and he ate a variety of foodstuff. On reaching home, he started vomiting and had to be taken to a hospital. The doctor said that this condition could be due to food poisoning. Paheli wonders how food can become a poison. Food poisoning. So, since the answer would be, it can be the consumption of food is which we have taken is not clean, or microorganisms have spoiled the particular food. That is one main reason why we are affected due to food poisoning. Microorganisms that grow on our food sometimes produce toxic substances. These make the food poisonous, causing serious illnesses and even death. So it is very, very important that we preserve food to prevent it from being spoiled. So that's why it is suggested to always eat hot and covered food with mostly not we should not mostly use plastic objects, plastic materials to cover food, because sometimes even while we are using plastic containers, food are getting spoiled. So it is highly recommended to use metal objects to store food. Next, 2.5, food preservation. In chapter 1, we have learned about the methods used to preserve grains and store food. How do we preserve cooked food at home? You know that bread left is unused under moist conditions and is attacked by fungus. Microorganisms spoil our food. Spoiled food emits bad smell and has a bad taste and changed color. Is spoiling of food a chemical reaction? Yes. Spoiling of food is a chemical reaction. That's why we have studied in our earlier grades that if a chemical reaction occurs, there are some criteria which it satisfies. Either there is some change in odor or smell, and second is there is change in the whole color, smell, color, and if both of these occurs, definitely the food is spoiled. So that particular food cannot be taken as a positive thing. We should not eat that food. If it smells very bad and its odor is changed. Paheli bought some mangoes, but she could not eat them for a few days. Later, she found that they were spoiled and rotten, but she knows that the mango pickle her grandmother makes does not spoil for a long time. She's confused. So, Paheli has bought some mangoes and she actually forgot to eat them on time. After some days, after some time, when she found that she actually thought of eating that mangoes, but they were rot. So now she started wondering, but How does these mango pickles do not get spoiled? Let us now we are coming to the main part of the chapter, some of the methods of preserving food in our homes. First one is chemical method. Salts and edible oils are the common chemicals generally used to check the growth of microorganisms. If when for example, if we eat something, the edible item has salt in it, naturally it resist against uh, intact contact with microorganisms, and therefore salts and edible oils are commonly used to check the growth of microorganisms. Therefore these are called as preservatives. We add salt or acid preservatives to pickles to prevent the attack of microbes. Sodium benzoate and sodium metabisulfite are common preservatives. These are also used in jams and squashes to check their spoilage. So first one is by using salt and edible oil, and the second thing is sodium benzoate and sodium metabisulfite are the common preservatives to check jams and squashes about the status of the spoilage. Next, preservation by common salt. Common salt has been used to preserve meat and fish for ages. Meat and fish are covered with dry salt to check the growth of bacteria. Salting is also used to preserve amla, raw mangoes, tamarind. Next is preservation by sugar. Jams, jellies, and squashes are preserved by sugar. Sugar reduces the moisture content which inhibits the growth of bacteria which spoil food. Preservation by oil and vinegar. Use of oil and vinegar prevents spoilage of pickles because bacteria cannot live in such an environment. Vegetables, fruits, fish, and meat often are preserved by oil and vinegar by adding oil and vinegar. Next is Next is heat and cold treatments. You have observed that your mother boiling milk before it is stored or used. Boiling kills many microorganisms. Similarly, when we keep our food in the fridge or the refrigerator, low temperature inhibits the growth of microbes. Why does the milk that comes in packets not spoil? My mother told that milk is pasteurized. What is pasteurization? So Bujo is asking, what is pasteurization? Let's answer this. Pasteurized milk can be consumed without boiling as it is free from harmful microbes. The milk is heated to about 70 degrees for 15 to 30 seconds and then suddenly chilled and stored. By doing so, it prevents the growth of microbes. This process was discovered by Louis Pasteur, and to honor this invention or discovery, his invention, we call this process by the name pasteurization. Next is storage and packing. These days, dry fruits and even vegetables are sold in sealed airtight packets to prevent the attacks of microbes. Next, we are moving about on a natural phenomena, a natural process occurring in the nature. Nitrogen fixation. Now let's see how does nitrogen fixation is related to microorganisms. We have already read that bacteriums like rhizobium helps in the fixation of nitrogen in leguminous plants. Legumes are nothing but beans, peas, which are having symbiotic relationship. Sometimes nitrogen gets fixed through the action of lightning. But you know that there is an umpteen number of nitrogen present in the atmosphere. But how it is getting fixed? Let's see. Nitrogen cycle. Topic 2.7. Nitrogen cycle or nitrogen in air, the composition of nitrogen is 78%. And this is because one of the essential constituents of all living organisms, that is from proteins, chlorophyll in leaves, vitamins, nucleic acids, all these have their main or major constituent as nitrogen. The atmospheric nitrogen cannot be taken directly by plants and animals. Certain bacteria and blue-green algae. Please note, bacteria, which is nothing but rhizobium, and blue-green algae present in the soil fix nitrogen from the atmosphere and convert it into the compounds of nitrogen. Once nitrogen is converted into these usable compounds, it can be used by plants from the soil through their root system. Nitrogen is then used for the synthesis of plant proteins and other compounds. Animals feeding on plants get these proteins and other nitrogen compounds. When plants and animals dies, bacteria and fungi present in the soil convert the nitrogenous waste into nitrogenous compounds to be used by plants again. Certain other bacteria convert some part of them to nitrogen gas, which goes back again to the atmosphere, and this cycle keeps on moving like this. Here the nitrogen cycle diagram is given in detail. Let's see. First, nitrogen. Lightning takes place and bacteria from lightning, the compounds of nitrogen in the soil, which is again taken back. Bacteria turns compounds of nitrogen into gaseous nitrogen and again atmospheric nitrogen. This is one cycle. The second cycle is nitrogen fixing bacteria, that is rhizobium and other bacteria like blue-green algae also along with rhizobium fix nitrogen into nitrogenous compounds. This compounds of nitrogen in the soil is taken up by the plants. These plants are eaten by animals, and the nitrogenous waste from excretion of animals and their death are again converted into compounds of nitrogen in the soil. So again the nitrogen is never getting wasted. It is in either in the form of atmospheric nitrogen or it is in the form of nitrogenous compounds, that is compounds of nitrogen in the soil. And again, after the death of animals, when they intake plants which have a nitrogen content in them, uh, it again recycles and get back into the gaseous form, and it again goes with atmospheric nitrogen. So that's all for this chapter. Keywords are algae, antibiotics, antibodies, bacteria, carrier, communicable diseases, fermentation, fungi, lactobacillus, microorganisms, nitrogen cycle, nitrogen fixation, pasteurization, pathogen, preservation, protozoa, rhizobium, vaccine,